Okay, I think we'll get started. Thank you everyone for joining. Good afternoon. My name is Adam Hertzman. On behalf of the Jewish Federation of Greater Pittsburgh, I'd like to welcome you to this commemorative Torah study session. Today, we honor the lives lost and the people affected by the attack on three congregations, Dor Hadash, New Light, and Tree of Life, or L'Simcha, on October 27th, 2018, the 18th of Heshvan, 5779. Our Torah study today is dedicated in memory of the 11 people who perished on this day 3 years ago. Please rise if you're able to do so as we recite their names. Joyce Feinberg, Edith Balcha, Bat Abba Menachem, Richard Gottfried, Yosef Ben Chaim, Rose Mallinger, Razel Bat Avraham, Jerry Rabinowitz, Yehuda Ben Yehezkel Viselma, Cecil Rosenthal, Cecil Chaim Ben Eliezer, David Rosenthal, David Ben Eliezer, Bernice Simon, Bela Rachel Bat Moshe, Sylvan Simon, Zalman Shachna Ben Menachem Mendel, Daniel Stein, Daniel Avraham Ben Baruch, Melvin Wax, Moshe Gadol Ben Yosef, and Irving Younger, Yitzhak Chaim Ben Menachem. Zikronam Livracha, may their memories be a blessing. You may be seated. Welcome again. I would just like to take this moment to let everyone know if there are members of the press here, please note that this session is off the record. We wanted to make sure that this was a safe space. And we're really honored to have Rabbi Doris Dayan of Congregation Dor Hadash here. Rabbi Dayan is a survivor of the attack, and she will introduce our scholar for this session, Rabbi Sandra Lawson. Rabbi Dayan.
Thank you, Adam. Rabbi Sandra Lawson, who goes by pronouns she, her, works with senior staff, lay leaders, clergy, rabbinical students, and Reconstructionist communities to help Reconstructing Judaism realize its deeply held aspiration of becoming an anti-racist organization and movement. In her role as the organization's first Director of Racial Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Rabbi Lawson is developing a series of anti-racist policies and trainings for the organization and its affiliate members. She also serves as a mentor to rabbinical students at the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College. I've had the benefit of knowing Rabbi Sandra Lawson for almost 10 years, since we were both students at RRC. It is my honor and pleasure to welcome Sandra as a presenter for these special sessions today. Her topic is crying out for help and comfort. Rabbi Lawson.
Okay. Can you all hear me? All right. This part was unplanned, but I'm so grateful to be in a space with Rabbi Doris again. One of the wonderful things about being a rabbinical student, yes, there's lots of wonderful learning in the class. I mean, that's true. But the moments outside the class, like when I was in my first year and Doris was like her last year, I believe, it was like one of these amazing magical hallway moments where I got some learning that was completely unexpected. And I'm not sure, I don't remember exactly what was said, but like just a reminder that the first year might be really hard. And, you know, Doris said, I don't remember the words, but it comforting me and saying like, if she can make it, then I could too. but I have this like strong visceral memory of what that conversation looked like in my memory, but I don't remember the words. But I also remember like how much comfort I found in that. And And I always try to do the same as I made it through the program with people who were starting out. So I want you all to know that I do a lot of public speaking. I love teaching, and this text and these texts I've put together, I've actually never done before. So if it seems a little clumsy, I apologize, and I hope that you will receive it with how it was intended. Before I begin any talk, I always start off with a blessing of gratitude. There's so much craziness in the world that it's a good reminder to be thankful for the gifts we have. And when I do that, I want to ask if you are comfortable after we say this blessing, which is Moda Ani or Modeh Ani, if you would put in the chat something you're grateful for, because, we are so separated these days because of COVID that we don't often get to share in the things that we're grateful for. So, Moda Ani lefanecha ruachai v'chayam she'azarta bi nishmati v'chemlecha rabba emunetecha. And today I will translate it like this. Thank you to the divine source of all for breathing life into me, restoring my soul, and allowing me to hang out with you all today. That's not part of the blessing, but I can add things in if I want. And you, the divine source, are awesome. And I'm just, my blessing, my gratitude is that I love being in community, and we've all had to adapt what that looks like. And like I said, if you're comfortable, put in the chat what you're grateful for. Oh, one more thing I'm grateful for. My wife is in the kitchen making soup and hummus and pita, homemade pita, because we're having guests on our porch that our new neighbors, but have them over for dinner, but outside and safely. So I'm really grateful for that, because we haven't really been able to entertain in a while. So I have put our source sheet in the chat, and I'm going to do it again, and keep those blessings coming. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to offer a Misha Barak for healing for our world. This was written by Rabbi Annie Lewis, who is a conservative rabbi, but she served for a time. I think her title was the Dean of Admissions or Dean of Rabbinic Formation for RRC. Her and her wonderful husband Yosef, they're both rabbis. But she wrote this. The music comes from someone else, but she wrote these lyrics. When the world is sick, can't no one be well, but I dreamt we're all beautiful and strong. When our world is sick, can't no one be well, but I dreamt we're all beautiful and strong. Misha Berach Avoteinu Avraham Yitzchak veYaakov. Misha Berach Imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel veLeah. Hu Yivarech v'yirapeh et kol ha'olim. Hu yivarech v'yirapeh et hakol. When the world is sick, can't no one be well, but I dreamt, yes, I dreamt, we're all beautiful and strong. So I'm going to share my screen because I think it will help. I also don't like sharing my screen because I lose your faces. Why is this doing this? Oh, here we go. Okay. And I'll probably go back and forth. But I want you all to see these essential questions. And I like participatory Zoom conversations. And I often ask people to participate in things so that you're not just like passively listening, and or I want you to actively listen and actively participate. And also, I'm really bad at looking at the chat because I can't. It's hard for me to teach and look at the chat at the same time. So if you want to say something, there's a reactions button at the bottom. So just hit that, and this says raise your hand, and then I'll put you to the top of the screen. And so if you want to answer a question or say something, just use that, or just go ahead and unmute yourself too. That's also an option. And anytime during this talk, if you want to say something, please feel free to raise your hand. I shouldn't say that like you're in school, but to offer something. And you're going to help me if I teach this again, you're going to help me make a better class. So first question is how do you all feel about the word faith? That's a really hard question often in Jewish spaces. Hi, Anna. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Rabbi Sandra. It's so nice to be here with you. This is such a good question because I think the word faith often has a Christian connotation to it, or it's used a lot in Christian spaces. And I feel like the Jewish relationship with that idea is more of a grappling. At least for me, it is. Grappling with the unexpected and the unpredictable and the unknown. And finding comfort in not having all of the answers and letting life show us things. But yeah, that's a tough one. So thanks for bringing that to us.
So what I want to say is for that, thank you for that. You reminded me of something. Yes, a lot of us, because of the Christian connotation of the word faith, are uncomfortable with that, and I understand. So what I often like to use is like inner voice. That inner voice. So with that said, how do you feel if someone else wants to say something like, how do you feel about the word faith? Or how do you feel about listening to your inner voice? Hi, Marlene. Am I saying that right? Marlene, hi.
The inner voice to me is conscience and morality, but faith, I have, to me is trust, and rather a positive view that something good can come out of my belief in something, in the history of Judaism, which is what I believe in. Of course, a lot of people substitute faith for God, but I think it's a little more than that. I think it's more in the person rather than up in a godly spirit.
Thank you. Thank you. We're going to move to the next question, but if somebody feels moved to still answer the first question, that's fine as well. What happens when we use our inner voice or when we ask God for help? And there are no right answers, just so you know. Oh, hi, Rabbi Doris.
Who's going?
Yes, because I'm one of the many kippot I wear is as a chaplain. I often am meeting with people who, in fact, have been asking God for help. No matter what particular faith tradition they come from. When you're in a hospital, asking God for help is what comes to most people's minds, even if they're atheists. That this happens. So, but the thing is that often they are very prescriptive about the kind of help they want, and so they often are very disappointed when that specific help doesn't come.
Right, right.
So one of the things I do as a chaplain is listen as carefully as I can to what's the person saying to me, but also then just gently say, how are you coping with this yourself? Or, something to lead them into talking to me about what solutions they see in terms of, the inner voice, but it's a very tricky situation to be in with people when they are in a crisis situation and they say, my faith is in God. I am asking God to help me now with this specific thing.
Yeah.
They may not get the answer that they want. And what then?
That's so true. Thank you. I'm going to move us along. And if someone wants to return to these questions, please feel free to do so. We can totally do that. My screen keeps, I don't know, things happening on my screen. Okay. Hi, Mary. Hi.
Mariasha.
Oh, Mariasha. I'm sorry, because sometimes people put their names get matched together. So I thought that there was two separate names. So
it actually is one. Yeah. Okay. I'm still thinking about your question around inner voice and I'm thinking about like what happens with that when we come from places that have told us because we're female or we're BIPOC or whatever that we can't trust that inner voice or svara. And so I'm just thinking about that. Like what happens when we live in a world that has actually encouraged the opposite of not trusting.
That's a very good point. Hi, Shelley. And thank you, Mariasha, for that. Shelley, I can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Okay, my name is Heli from Rachel.
Heli, thank you.
Yes. My experience has been that when I have been in situations where I really felt I couldn't figure things out and things weren't really going well, if I just ask for help in the way of not like Doris said, Rabbi Doris said, it's not about a specific thing, but sort of opening up to something bigger than myself, because I can't solve it. I don't know. So I find that actually it moves me forward. Kind of response that happens. I don't know how it happens, but it does happen.
You're making me think of something. I'm wondering if like some of my Christian friends will say, give it up to God. And I used to find that incredibly uncomfortable. And then I'm also wondering if there is some release when you do put faith in a higher power, or if you just let it go. Like if you I've gotten to a point where I can't deal with this anymore. And it's almost like a friend, like I'm going to let this go to the universe, and maybe the universe can help. I don't know. You made me think of that. I don't know if that's what you were thinking as well. Thank you. Barbara Doris, did you have something else to say, or did you want to put, okay. Just wanted to make sure. Again, I love this conversation. I could have probably just done a whole conversation, a whole hour just on these questions alone. But this is a text class, not the kind of text, that I used to get from my Orthodox teachers, but this is a more relaxed, I think, way of doing text. So like many of you, I love Psalm 121 and I sing it every morning. And when I was asked to teach this, for those of you who don't know, I spent all of 5781 in mourning, because my mom passed right at the end of 5780. So I spent the entire year in mourning. So I spent a lot of time looking at a lot of text related to what we're talking about. And, Psalm 121 is, this is a melody that I know. Esainai Eleharim Me'ain Yavo Ezri Me'im Adonai Ose Shemayim Va'aretz. I lift my eyes to the mountains, from Where will my help come? My help will come from the Lord above, maker of all heaven and earth. I love that that psalm a lot, and I personally have found a lot of comfort in this song, that psalm, and it's a reminder to me that that when I do cry out for help, there is comfort in knowing that the divine source of all will actually hear my cry. In the Torah portion, Lech Lecha, we learn that Avram and Sarai are unable to have a child because Sarah is barren. And in Genesis 15, we get, actually, can someone read Genesis 15? I don't care, you can read it in Hebrew or in English. English is fine, or Hebrew. If you read the Hebrew, I'll also read the English, but hi, Dean.
Hi. So just this first.
Yeah, just Genesis 15:1.
Okay. Sometime later, the word of the Lord came to Avram in a vision. He said, "Fear not, Avram. I am a shield to you. Your reward shall be very great."
Thank you for that. And so in the Torah portion that we read this past Shabbat, it's Vayera, and we learn in that God appears to Abraham. And so in Genesis 15:1, Avram is basically having a conversation with God that continues on to like verse 2 and 3. God is saying, I will make you a great nation, not those words, but basically is promising to give Avram and Sarah a child. Abraham appears to be like crying out for help, like, I don't have any children. And in this is a text where, one second, I can't see the text in Hebrew. Dever Adonai el Avram b'ma hazeh. So it's saying that the word of God, basically God appears to Abraham in a vision, and Abraham is like crying out for help. Genesis 18:1 and 2 come from the Torah portion that we read this past Shabbat. And what's interesting about this text for me is that Abraham is in his tent recovering from his circumcision after the conversation that I just mentioned before. And he sees 3 strangers, 3 angels, 3 people out in the desert. Now, it's hot. Abraham is recovering from his circumcision. No one would probably fault him if he didn't move or want to deal with him. But instead, he looks up with his eyes. He lifts his eyes and he sees these men, and he gets up and he runs from the entrance to the tent to greet them out in the hot desert. And because of that, some of our texts say because of that, like hospitality, that's when they find out that they're going to have a child. And so the next part of this particular parsha that we read this past Shabbat, Abraham also learns, there's a lot that happens in this text. Abraham also learns that God is planning to destroy the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. And what's interesting about this text, so Abraham is hanging out with these angels and they're all talking as if Abraham can't hear them. It's kind of weird. And, you know, like, should we tell Abraham what we're going to do to Sodom and Gomorrah? And then the three strangers leave and Abraham is left there with God. And he bargains and he pleads, asking God for help. Like, if you find, the text isn't here, but if you like, are you going to destroy everyone? What if you like find a few good people? And he brings the number down from like, you know, he counts back, he goes back and forth. Like, if you find a few good people, are you going to destroy the city? And he basically convinces God, if you find a soul that's good, please, you know, don't destroy the city. We later learn, of course, that God does wind up destroying the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, and but Lot and his daughters are saved, and then we get this really weird story afterwards, which I don't need to repeat. If you have any questions, please stop me. And then later on in this text, we find out that Abraham really puts his faith to the ultimate test as he begins to follow God's instructions to sacrifice his son Isaac. And at the last moment, right before this is about to happen, before Abraham is about to commit the most horrific of sacrifices, Abraham lifts his eyes and God appears, and his son Isaac is spared. So from all of these texts that I've mentioned, I feel like we learn a lot about faith when we remember that no matter what our challenges are that we face in our lives and our society, we can always lift our eyes to the heavens and ask God for help. And God may Vaera appear. And we remember that our help comes from God, maker of all heaven and earth. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Oh, good, your faces are back. I want to share a little anecdote with you all, some of the conversations that my wife and I have. When I was putting this together, she said that I'm trying to remember what she said, but she pushed me on this sort of how Abraham got out of his tent to help these strangers. And she said that, you know, I don't know how she said it, but like, you're not like Abraham, because when people come to our house, like, you don't answer the door. And that's largely because I'm always worried about solicitors. And I said, you're right. Like, I could do better. And actually answer the door when people come. And the funny thing is that the guests that are coming to our house tonight, coming over because I actually answered the door when they came. We had met them walking, and she knocked on the door and I answered it, and we had a very lovely conversation on our porch. They seemed like really great people, but I would not have actually met them if I hadn't opened the door. So even like this, for me, like showing hospitality to people that I barely knew and actually answering the door, much like Abraham. I have 2 new friends. At least I hope we'll be friends. What are your questions or comments? I want to make this a space where we can discuss and talk if you're comfortable. We can talk about the text. We can talk about anything. Oh, hi, Dean. Dean and Linda.
I have a question. I mean, the 121st Psalm, the very beginning, is quite emotionally powerful for me, and I think us and our community as well. And the idea of faith and raising, lifting, ascending. Can we unpack that a little bit? What is it about looking up for help? Why do we not look directly into the eyes or look directly out, as we do, when we had, when we were attacked, we were looking out to each other and reaching straight out to hold on to each other and to support one another. And at the same time, listening, not just looking. So why, I'm just curious about why this ancient emphasis on looking up, not necessarily listening or reaching. And just if we could unpack that a little bit for me, or help me try to understand that particular metaphor of spiritual being up.
I love that, because when I was going through these texts, I had a similar question, a little different, not necessarily about looking into the eyes, but I did ask, like, why are we looking up? I don't have an answer, but I can tell you what I came up with for myself. I mean, I have an answer, but it's my personal answer. I think that when people ask for help, there's a lot of humility in asking for help. And I see this as hold your head up high and ask for help. Don't be ashamed that you're asking for help. Keep your, don't look down, look in someone's eyes or look up and ask for help. There's no shame in that. That's how I approach this text. It's a wonderful question. Does anyone else want to comment on Dean's question?
Well, you called on me, I think. And what struck me listening to you was the phrase, lift my eyes, recurs and recurs. And I was thinking about it not so much as looking up, but having head down, looking into oneself, or looking out when you lift your eyes. And it's that movement from whatever's going on inside, the pain that lingers, the emphasis on self, to the wider world, and to the, I guess, I want to say the spirit that can shine in that world.
Thank you for that. Linda, did you have another question? Because I know your hand was up before you responded to that one. Beth, hi.
Hi. It's good to see you, Rabbi Sandra.
So
I'm still back on the question about faith. And I realized my first reaction was similar to Anna's, that when I hear the word faith, often there's a Christian connotation, like faith equals belief. I don't know how I feel about belief in God. But if faith means trust, or faith means me being faithful to the Jewish people, to our community, to our tradition, then I have no problem. Then I feel very strongly about having faith. And so I think it really depends on, well, what is faith a synonym for?
Well, thank you. Laura wrote in the comments, the act of looking up allows us to look outside of ourselves for clarification and answers. So does anyone have an answer to what faith is a synonym for? From Beth's question. Hi, Rabbi Doris. You're muted.
it's interesting. When I start, I said before, I'm a chaplain. I work with several Catholic chaplains. And one of the things they often, one term that they often use is being faithful, by which, but they don't necessarily mean faith in terms of belief or religion. They mean loyal. I mean, they're using it in a more of a context like carrying out your responsibilities faithfully, or faithfully coming to work, when you're supposed to be there, things like that. And so it's the thing about the word is that it's slippery. And I really liked Beth talking about how you can they also often use a person of faith. You've probably heard that too. Are you a woman of faith? Are you a person of faith? And I always feel quite distant from that use of the term, because in me it starts the question, well, faith in what? Whereas when you talk about it as being an inner voice, or listening to your best self, sort of what Marlene was pointing to when talking about conscience, that's a way different. That's talking about the idea of faith as being something that's internal to you, not something that you have chosen to do, that you didn't have faith before, but now you do. Which to me doesn't make a whole lot of, it doesn't resonate with me, that way of thinking about faith. That's kind of rambling, but I think there's some nuggets in there somewhere.
I think it's great. And one of the things that sort of I was thinking about, because I did my chaplain residency in a Catholic hospital. And one of the things that I wrestled with my spiritual director, which is a wonderful, for me, it was another rabbi who helped me unpack, my own relationship to the divine, and how I am perceived as a clergy person as I move from, being a student to a rabbi. I actually still have the same spiritual director, and it's been invaluable for me to sort of have that person. But anyway, one of the things I learned from my spiritual director is how faith should be a mystery. The divine should be a mystery. And when, I know this is not what you're saying, Doris, but that what you said sort of reminded me of this. Like when people, when mystery is removed from the divine or from faith, people become fundamentalist, or becomes fundamentalism. And where people are so sure that their faith is right, or so sure that, that they know what God will do, and all the mystery is been removed. And so for me, like, faith is a mystery. I can ask for help, but I don't know what's going to happen. I can ask for help and believe that whatever comes about is the right thing, but I also have to take action. I don't think that faith is meant to be passive. No, that's what I was thinking about when you mentioned that. Hi, Anna.
Hi again.
It's been so long. No.
I really love what you just said about the mystery. I think that's so important. And another term that's coming to mind in terms of the synonyms for faith is a term I learned in dialectical behavior therapy called radical acceptance. And I think that was a big one for me in terms of being too angry at the world to take action and being able to hold the good and the bad, and accept life as it is, but also, be able to be active in that. I think that that's tough to do both, but it, you know, I think without some degree of radical acceptance, you can become immobilized just by how overwhelming so much of this world is. So yeah, that was what came to mind.
Thank you. Hi, Dan. Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you as well, Rabbi. My dog has something to say occasionally here. Anna, thank you for bringing up that radical acceptance attitude or aspect of this. Yesterday, when we were studying the Torah portion, one of the things that I brought to the table was this idea that when we pray, when we reach out to God, or at least when I do, and I think most people tend to do this, they want the experience to go away. They want it to be not so painful. They want it not to have its logical conclusion that's unfolding in front of them. And with Abraham, that happens. The hand of God stops Abraham from killing his son. And when we're in a bad situation, a horrid situation, we call out and we want that magical intervention to occur. But we know that that's not what's going to happen. And that's the conflict in Psalm 121 too. You know, God does see our foot slip, even if God doesn't slumber and sleep. And it's difficult to accept. And so in that kind of maybe radical acceptance that Anna, you're talking about, for me, you know, I go back to Viktor Frankl all the time, and the help that comes for some of us is in the form of being able to find meaning in the experience, as horrible as it is. And I hold out the hope that through community and through the gift of prayerful connection to each other, that is what we can do. There are some things that we can't do and it will not be done for us. And but we can, hopefully through our connection to each other and the history that we have of our own experience in the world with others, find meaning in the experiences that we have, even if they're horrible experiences.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. You know, when you said find meaning, and I mentioned early that, you know, I spent all of 57, 80, 81 in mourning, and it took me a while to, like, you know, what good is going to come out of this. And I have a much better relationship with my dad since my mother passed away. They divorced a long time ago, and he was absent for chunks of my life. And I'm just sharing with you all because I feel like, you know, we're in community. I went to see him in June, and then I went back again between the Hagim, like right after Rosh Hashanah. And then he said to me, he said to his wife, he thought I was going to move to Arkansas because I had seen him in close proximity. He's like, well, I noticed you were here in June and now you're back again. And said, are you thinking about moving here? And I said, no. And I said, Dad, I lost my mother, and you know, you're not getting any younger. And I wanted to spend more time with you. And so his wife was like, I told him that's what it was. And so anyway, like the sort of like the positive thing that came out of losing my mother is it helped me to let go of whatever I was holding on to with my dad. And I now have a much better relationship with him. And so I think I'm still upset that my mother, I'm still sad that my mother died. But there are silver linings. I think sometimes it doesn't take the pain away, but there are silver linings and things when bad things happen sometimes. So thank you, Dan, for that. Hi, Adam.
Hi there. I'm just actually cutting in to let everyone know that the session will be over in 5 minutes, and we'll have the Kaddish D'Rabbanan at the end.
Thank you. So if there are, if someone wants to say one more thing, that would be great. If not, I had some closing words and I've lost them on the page and I don't want to like look for them. But what I'll say is that I feel like these texts remind us to look up when we ask for help, to always remember that the divine source of all is present, or our inner voice is there to help us, and that we never have to be alone. And when we need to cry out for help, to hold our heads high and ask for help. And thank you so much for inviting me. Hi, Haley, how are you? Did I say it right? I hope. You're muted.
I love what people brought to this. I think what's so important that we talk about it, because it sort of makes you feel less alone in this kind of state, like you said, crying for help or whatever. Yes, it's part of our human experience, but I sort of seem to forget it when I'm not in contact with other people. And I think that you gave us this opportunity to talk about something really important. And I thank you for that.
Thank you. Hi, Cindy, you can have the last words.
Oh, that's, I don't know if I want the last words. I did want to say that I'm often troubled when I hear the concept that people admire, picking yourself up by the bootstraps. Because I think none of us, I think in our Jewish tradition, leaning into that, we know full well that none of us are alone, none of us do it alone. And so the words that you're saying, it's all that reflection of how interconnected we are. And there's the moment when we are asking for the help, and there's the moment where we're hearing what people are asking for and being the ones to help. But it's all, it all flows together. So thank you for bringing light to help and faith and crying out and thinking about things today.
Thank you, Cindy. That was a perfect note to end on. Thank you.
And I will just conclude by saying thank you so much, Rabbi Lawson, for your wisdom and your words and for joining us. And thanks to all of you for participating today. We'll close with the Kaddish de Rabbanan, led by Dan Legger, who's a survivor of the attack and a member of Congregation Dor Hadash. And a link to the text is in the chat. Just a note for those who are on speaker and not on the video. As I wrote in the chat, you're welcome to stay on after the Kaddish de Rabbanan and chat for a bit. There's another session on the Zoom that's starting at 4 o'clock. Dan?
It's customary if you wish to rise for Kaddish de Rabbanan. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Yom ha'divrah shirtei v'yamlik malchutei. V'chayechon v'yomechon. V'chayei l'kol beit Yisrael. V'agala u'vizman kavri v'yamur amen.
Amen. Yehei Rabbah Mevarach le'olam u'lomei amayim.
Yibarach v'yishtabach. Yipar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal. Shmei d'chudsha.
Very cool.
Leila min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran v'yalma v'yamuru. Amen.
Amen.
Al Yisrael v'yal Rabbanan. V'yal Tamidehon. V'yal kol Tamidehon. V'yal kol man da'askin ba'oraita. Diva ba'atra hadyen v'di v'chol atar ba'atar. Yehei lechon u'lechon l'shlama rabba. Hina v'chista v'rachamim. V'chaim arifim umzonei revichei ufurkana min kodam uvahon yishmaya v'imru. Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shmaya V'chaim Tovim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'yamuru Amen. Ose Shalom B'mromav Hu Barachamav Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel V'yamuru Amen.
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 Thank you again for everyone for joining this Jewish Federation of Greater Pittsburgh Torah session that we were honored to host. And again, thanks to Rabbi Lawson, Rabbi Diane, and Dan Legger. Everyone's welcome to stay on if you wish. There's another session starting at 4 o'clock, which you're welcome to unmute and chat. And the next session, someone will come on and let you know when it's about to begin.